and welcome to a new quick review Thursday from Indie Film Cafe. I'm your host, Paulie Presenza, otherwise known as the Moo Cow, and tonight I am joined by
Jonathan A. Moody, your co-host.
Outstanding. And today we're doing something a little different. Um, we have done movies from this particular director before, Jordan
Yes.
Downey, and he has done Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving 3, infamous, of course, for not there actually not being in a Thanksgiving 2, and other kinds of silly, ridiculous, over the top, bizarro, stinky movies. This, on the other hand, is an attempt at a very serious film. This is a what I was described as a minimalist horror film, sort of with a bunch of fantasy mixed in there too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very curious about it, and it's hard to find, but it turns out it's on Tubi as well, or not on Tubi. It's on Prime, so you can see it there. And then I went and bought it because I liked it. I thought it was really interesting, and it kind of shows you what some of these directors or some of these guys who are involved with some of these other movies that we typically do can do. So there you go. So this is a movie from 2018 called The Headhunter.
Mm-hmm.
And had you seen this before or heard about this before, John?
I've heard when we were doing research on Jordan, well, I always get mixed up with the other Jordan, Jordan Rubin, who did Zombievers, and stuff. They both made like Critters things too. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my goodness, it's really funny. But when I was doing like research on him, I stumbled across this, and then I checked out a trailer for it and then realized it only had like three people and and whatnot. So when you suggested it, it's a perfect quick review because I don't know if we could talk for like an hour about this movie, honestly. Um
Mm-hmm.
it is, I mean, you're right, it's a very minimalist movie horror film. Well, it's not even horror, it's like fantasy. It's a minimalist fantasy film.
But it's definitely got horror elements to it,
Few
you
horror
know,
elements because there's the monster.
especially, yeah, because of that wackadoodle, insane monster thing that, I mean, let's face it, no spoilers, but it ends up winning at the end. Um,
Well, spoilers then.
yeah. Um, so yeah, so there's an interesting story behind this somehow, and I don't know exactly how or why, but Jordan Downey found himself in northern Portugal and saw the landscape and said, "Wow, this is gorgeous. I'm going to write a movie about this area." And this is what he came up with. And really, as good as the main actor is in this, the star, in my opinion, is really the
But
cinematography and the setting.
the location, yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
was just knocked
breathtaking.
out.
And the cinematographer's the co-writer, so like I
Uh-huh.
almost feel like that was on purpose for the beauty of it all. Like,
Hmm.
making sure they captured that, or whatever. So
And
I like that.
40,000. That's what it cost to make this movie.
I could get with that because I mean there are things that probably took some money, props
A
and
lot of props.
costume and drones and other things,
Hmm.
probably equipment and stuff. So those things cost some money, even though I'm sure they have drones. Now they can just fly drones, or you know what I mean?
And
So
I like it because he also used some of his other strengths that we've seen in previous movies, like puppets. Only instead of being silly, ridiculous puppets, these were some evil, nasty puppets. I mean,
yeah.
you don't get to see all of them. And I can understand that's kind of a gripe that some people have with this film because a lot of the early violence, especially, is done off camera. So you don't see it. You don't see him killing some of the monsters. You see it
Yeah.
afterwards when he comes back. But that's going to blow the budget up. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, so there is like the beginning of the scene, beginning of the movie where all of a sudden he goes to like chop off the head or whatever, like, and you hear some biting, you hear some stuff, but it's like you're looking at the scenery and everything. all the while all this fighting and other stuff is going on, and then he walks back into frame and stuff. And I like that. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's minimalist in regards to information as well. You're not really given any information. You're just tossed right into it.
Uh, Honestly, if I hadn't looked up the synopsis of it and it actually went into a little bit more length, I wouldn't even know necessarily what really was going on. Like, I know
Well,
the daughter, he's getting vengeance on his daughter, but I didn't know,
right.
but you don't see like the daughter die,
No, you don't
anything.
see that, and you don't know where or when or anything of that kind of information. But I don't think it necessarily matters in this case. I think
Mm,
it's just here's a guy, he's by himself, he kills monsters for a living, he gets
mm.
paid for it, he has a daughter, or he has a
I don't see
daughter.
the paying for it
Well,
out.
you do. You see that chest. Remember, he's got money in the
Oh,
chest.
right. But I didn't like for some reason I didn't put two to two together. That's how he's getting his
That's
money.
how he's
But
getting it. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't do that.
So
Okay.
there's a client nearby, some rich guy who's got a noble who's got a castle, and whenever there's some kind of monster, they're blowing the horn, and then he goes out, kills the monster, comes back, gets paid, and that's how he supports himself. But he's got this daughter that he thought he could keep safe, but he said something got to her, and whatever it was still there, and he swears at her grave site to get his vengeance, and that's
Mm.
what he does. Because we kept thinking initially, I was like, why doesn't he just leave? Why doesn't he just go? This is not a happy place. Just go away somewhere, especially if you got a chest full of money. But then it was like, oh, now I get it. He's waiting for that particular monster
Mm-hmm.
to come back.
To kill
So
that particular monster or
yeah,
whatever, and he does,
and
or
it
so he
was
thought.
it was awful because there's some stuff that goes on too, because there's a little bit of like D&D kind of fantasy stuff in there, because he's
Right.
got like these magic salves that he puts on because he's getting fucked up every time he fights one of these damn monsters, and he's
Mm-hmm.
got to put this stuff on, and man, it looks like it really hurts, but it does the job as far as curing him goes pretty instantly. But unfortunately for him, one of his jars of stuff accidentally falls over. Another spoiler. I mean, he finally does
Yeah, because
kill the thing.
the window keeps opening and closing.
Mhm.
Like the wind, I guess, keeps
Right.
like kind of messing with it, and so it just knocks over that cup of like was it blood or something?
That
Like
salve.
yeah, and it
that,
falls down and it resurrects the
that damn head, the head of the damn monster that he finally killed.
yeah.
And then it's not only does it start running around, because that's where the really bad stuff happens. Um, he finds out that it digs up the remains of his daughter and uses that as a body, and it's running around going body, my body, because that's what it wants. It's fucking creepy. And
Hmm.
then they kind of go back and forth and have this sort of fight, and in theory you think he finally kills him, but it turns out not so much. Yeah, so
Yeah. That was, yeah. I
it's
mean,
not a
and
happy movie.
not a happy movie necessarily, and not. I mean, honestly, it's a uh, it's a well directed, well shot, well edited. Um, my only gripe is I just don't understand necessarily half of what goes on. Sometimes it's a little too dark, and that might have been the computer screen I was looking at or whatever. Maybe if I watched it on Amazon, it might have looked better. I didn't
It
know
is
that that
very
was an
dark and
option.
gritty.
But there's times where it's too dark and I can't kind of see what was necessarily going on
Hmm.
at night, at the night scenes. In the day you can see everything. But in the night scenes they needed more light. And I'm
Well,
guessing that's a thing. If you say they shot in Portugal, there might not have been able to,
right.
put all
In
that stuff
fact,
out there.
the building, that hut that he's in, is actually an 8th century ruin. I think it was some kind of a cereal grain mill. So
So
it's not
they
like
didn't
they
want
could.
to ruin it, did
Right,
they?
well, yeah, and they can't bring electricity there that doesn't have it. So they used what they could, and they did what they could. but a lot of the light is actually natural light or firelight that they
Hmm.
use. So yeah, or candles. They used a lot of candles in there. You notice he always had candles burning in the background. So very interesting. It really sort of helps set the mood because it's a really dark, somber place. I don't know if you noticed the coloring was very washed out, except for that little bit towards the end where it was spring and all of a sudden it was like color was coming back.
Hmm.
It was like his mood was lifted because he finally got to the damn monster, whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a really clever and well done use of color schemes in the film as well. I don't know where they got all that armor, all the weapons, all that stuff from, but I think that's where a lot of that money went to. And they got a guy, this guy, I forget his name, the actor, but he's like a Scandinavian guy and he's been in like other Viking shows and Viking things before.
He
So
looks like a Viking.
he did. He looked, acted, it sounded, and everything.
I mean, I was thinking of that movie The Northman,
Mm-hmm.
when I was watching this and going, "Oh, is this like a Viking thing?" I thought they were gonna have like a Viking funeral with the girl's body or something because they
Should
did,
have.
could have, yeah. So I don't know. It was sort of an interesting movie, but all in all, like, would this be something I'd want to watch again? Maybe if I'm kind of like not forced, but like sort of, somebody wanted to watch it, and that was like the only thing we could think of to watch.
Well,
You know,
what if you saw it on like Blu-ray on a big TV where you could see things better?
if
You know,
this went on like a 4K or something, maybe, but like because the scenery was, I would buy the 4K alone for like the scenery looks and stuff and
gorgeous,
all that stuff. But the movie is just, it's only an hour and 11 minutes, so it's like pretty, pretty like quick. I mean, the pacing does, for a movie that doesn't for a long time, nothing really happens, for a long time.
right?
Like for like minutes and minutes and minutes upon, time, there's just like nothing that happens. And, except for him walking around and going to his place and setting things up and doing things and you know that stuff, I don't know. I just kind of it for me it kind of dragged a little, which for a movie like this it shouldn't drag. Like I know this would have cost more money, but I feel like there should have been more people.
Well, that's
You know
just it.
me.
He was by himself, so there's
I
nobody to talk to.
I really don't like usually movies that take place in one location, and this doesn't take place in just one location, but it's like one big location, like
No.
to me. And
Well,
I'm not my kind of cup of tea.
I I didn't mind that part of it. I liked it. I think I wish that they had spent an extra 20,000 and gotten in another fight. If we had seen one fight in the beginning, because that's really all you need is one in the beginning to set it up so that we understand what he's going through, and then the fight at the end with the main monster. That's what we needed because we don't really see that. The only fight we actually see is the last one. Everything
Right.
else is off camera. So if we see the first one, the others we can assume we know what's going on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
then we don't have to see them. Yeah.
Right. And then that would have added a little more action and a little more maybe something going on, maybe
Yeah.
something interesting. You know.
Yeah. But I mean, all in all, this wasn't a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it's funny to see this and know it's from the guy who made Things Killing and Things
Right.
Killing 3, which were so silly and so, I mean, they were well done, so the guy's a good director, but you just think of him as like a silly director, like silly person, and
Yeah,
so
it's like if you only knew him from Thanksgiving movies and you saw this, it's like, holy shit, it's like, Ed Wood turned around and did like, 12 Angry Men or something, it's like, what?
remember we watched the other Jordan do a serious horror film called The Drone, and this was much better than The Drone.
Yeah.
The Drone kind of droned on, and it
Yeah.
was not that good of a movie. But this one, um has like the potential. And I think if Hollywood were to give him like um say $5 million budget, he could make a much better movie like
Yeah, this
with this.
this guy can walk right into Blumhouse right now and say, I have the bona fides to do like a $5, $6 million film right now.
Yeah. I mean he can show you he's got talent. Um but it's just a matter of like I think what really sort of makes this movie, sort of, I don't know, it wasn't as entertaining as I would have liked it to be.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of that is the minimalistness of the movie. And I think if they had more stuff like you said in the fight in the beginning, show the fight at the end, and maybe even just come like, you said the guy at the castle. I mean, I don't even like I guess that was there that it mentioned because when I was watching it, they had like these fucking weird ass subtitles from another language or something. And I was like watching it and I could barely hear what they were saying. And that was also my computer, not the movie itself. I think the
Hmm.
movie probably had really good sound. But my
Yeah.
computer, so I
If you
mean,
were to like redo this with like $1 million budget, I mean, he could have more people in there, he could have more stuff in there. You
you
could
could
even
have
have like,
introduced the castle and the people in
yeah,
the castle.
or an assistant. Even and that's an easy thing. He could have had a second person, maybe a younger guy, an assistant who, the movie starts off where he's helping him, and maybe he gets killed in the
Right.
first
Well, maybe he gets
fling.
killed later, like in like halfway through, so that he has to be the one who fights the main creature or whatever. And there'll be a little bit more talking, probably
Right.
a
There's be
little
more
bit more
dialogue.
exposition that I feel like sometimes we talk about movies that give you too much exposition. We hate that. There's like a person like an exposition man,
Hmm.
who explains everything. This needed somebody like that. Like to me, other than him, like it needed somebody to talk to him and stuff, and it kind of explained a little bit
Well,
more.
the other option, and this doesn't work most of the time, but I could see where it works here, is if we get a little bit of narration from him, sort of talking to himself essentially, but still
Or at
he
least
does
talking
that
to the
occasionally.
audience.
Yeah,
Because like the narrator will be like somebody who's like explaining, like him self-explaining
right.
why he's doing everything.
Like the beginning of Road Warrior, where the guy sort of gives you the explanation right there in
Right.
the first minute about
Yeah.
what's going on.
Or even Star Wars where they give you that scroll in the beginning,
Yeah, I
the
don't know if I'd
crawl.
go with that, but I would definitely have some
We
some
used to do
internal
that for like
dialogue.
medieval movies, for movies that took place in like medieval times or medieval. And this is supposed to be a medieval movie, or whatever.
Fantasy, yeah,
Fantasy.
medieval-ish fantasy.
Right.
But yeah, it's just a little bit more information here and there from internally from him would have been useful. But I get it. Like I said, they're going for the minimalist aesthetic. They're using the fact that he is by himself in the middle of this woods. It's a very grim, lonely, horrible life that this
Hmm.
guy has to deal with, and he's dealing with it the best he can. But the one ray of hope he had was snuffed out, and now all he has is revenge for it.
There you go. I mean, it's an understandable movie. Like you can get it, but it's just it needed more, I feel like, to make it a better movie. I didn't hate it by any stretch of imagination. It's just not something like I'd rather watch Thanksgiving 1 and 3 again
They're more
than watch
fun,
this.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I get wanting to do something serious and get away from the fun, stupid, whatever, but still make it fun to me. Like, I feel like this is too dark, too depressing, too not fun. It was trying to do a 180 because, he thought maybe Hollywood would see it and say, and the other thing is, I mean, being an hour and 11 minutes or whatever is really short runtime. um, Most times people want something a little bit more, and maybe a little bit more would have cost a little bit more. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Well, I like the fact that he's a guy that obviously thinks outside the box. So even his other movies are different
Well, they
than
think
most
outside the
films.
box.
Yeah. So I'm very curious to see what this guy's gonna do next. Maybe you can work your Moody magic and we can get him on Spotlight. I'd love to talk to him. I'd love to know how he goes from the one kind of film to this kind of film, and then what's next from this guy. I'm very curious at this point.
Yeah,
And he
it's
has
not
shown
listing
me a
anything right
lot.
now, so
Sorry.
it's not listing anything. But by the way, he's directed or edited other. Edited another movie called The Big Ugly,
Oh, that's
which
interesting.
starred Vinnie Jones and Malcolm McDowell, Ron Perlman,
Okay.
Nicholas Braun. So it's got some names to it. Bruce McGill is in that movie. This
Okay.
sounds good. I think I have it. I think if I'm correct, this might be like a movie I got at the Dollar Tree. Um, but it's apparently like he's edited something else. Like maybe he edits, maybe that's what he's like doing because he is a good editor. He edited this movie. He edited the
Very
Mindy
well, I
Kaling
thought.
movies. Yeah, so he's a good editor. I just and he's a good director and writer. It's just I feel like once again the money, the lack of money really, and I get it, go out and make the movie, right? And everything. But when you have this an idea that's like this big in a way, this is a scope movie. This is a big deal. This should be a Hollywood movie. Kind of reminded me a little bit of what came years later, which was Prey, you know,
Yeah, yeah, a
and
little bit.
stuff. So Prey me stole
Or The
ideas from
Revenant.
The Revenant, yeah. So I would say
I mean, I could see Skarsgård playing this and role. And if you had a couple more characters and some more money and a few other things, I could see him doing this.
hmm
You know?
yeah, I could see yeah, and I could see Jordan actually, making a big Hollywood movie, but
Yeah.
unfortunately,
But for 40K, come on, this was great for the budget. I mean, yeah, I think he did really, really, really well. So yeah, hats off to Jordan, man. Given the budget and the idea and all the stuff you had, knocked it out of the park, man. I mean, it is different. It is, leaves me wishing there'd be more. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's usually a good thing when something's, usually if it's bad, I'm like, oh, I don't care. I just don't want to see anything else. This wanted me to do more. And it almost makes me very curious about the world that he's built here. Like, I could see this being a series where you have more people and more stuff going on, like a 10-part miniseries. I'd be very curious. I'd watch it, you
hmm,
know,
I have to
kind of like
change
The
the name
Witcher.
though, because I think there is a TV show or something called The Headhunter or Headhunters or something. But
Hmm.
yeah, it would be uh it would be interesting. I would love to hear it because maybe this is some land, and has its own world and, own universe or whatever.
Hmm.
And I can see them doing it, but I don't think I think if there was going to be like a TV show or something from this, it would have happened by now. So I think he's probably going to move on and do something
Yeah,
else,
most likely. Most likely.
and maybe hopefully it'll lead to like somebody discovering this
It is
and
2018,
saying,
so that's a few years ago. So,
yeah, so maybe somebody's going to discover this someday and be like, man, that guy can actually do something,
so
you know.
let's get him on the horn. Let's see if we can talk to him, man.
Uh, I don't know. I'm not friends with him. I follow him apparently on Facebook, and the last thing he said was April 21st that I can see because I'm not friends with him,
Hmm.
It says for the past few months we've been recording a series of special interviews for something special
Ooh,
this fall. So stay tuned.
nice.
So
And I'll
hopefully
tell him you wanted Turkey to pop out and attack.
I
Attack him.
would. I would. I mean, but that would ruin it.
Yeah, yeah.
because I mean it's a completely different film than the
But it would have been a
Thanksgiving
fun
movie.
outtake.
Okay, for that I'd be okay with that. But yeah, it was fun. It was just I think it was just a little slow at times, and you know me, I've got the attention span of a
Bit
gnat,
of a
dude.
slow burn, yeah.
And I can be into slow burns. Like I've been watching a lot of slow burns lately, and I've been really getting into them because usually you can really, when you watch a slow burn, you're getting to the character development and stuff.
Right.
This movie didn't have that much character development. Like
Well,
the
and
character never really changes.
that's kind of why I would like to have seen, even if it was just a couple minutes, a fight in the beginning to sort of give it a pump of energy at the beginning, so
I
that when you slow burn, there's a little bit, you've got a little bit to go on.
I would have loved more characters. I would have loved somebody else too. Like, like the guy who owns the castle coming to him and saying,
Mhm.
I need your help or whatever, and stuff. Like some more stuff like that. But uh
Or just a little bit of background about why he's there doing this in the first place. What happened to the mother? There's got to be a reason behind all of this. And yeah, for the movie to exist, you don't really need that, but it left me wondering more. You know what I mean?
I mean,
So
which is normally a sign of a good movie, maybe, but
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I suggest people, even though we did spoil it, so if you haven't seen it, then
See,
oops.
because you could even do that. You could even have a couple of scenes in flashback where he's talking to the mother of the daughter, and they're discussing about what he's planning on doing and why and what it's going to mean. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah,
So,
maybe. I mean, but we never got that, and
no, we
I
didn't.
don't think we're gonna get anything more from the Headhunter itself. I think Jordan's probably moved on to whatever his next project is, whether it be those interviews or whatever he's
Well,
doing.
my hope is that it does at some point move on to Blu-ray, and maybe he'll add a few interesting bits and pieces, and maybe they
Like
did film
commentary or
something
something.
that's not in there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or maybe he'll get the direct. He'll become a bigger Hollywood presence later, do a few other things, and then have the money to come back and say, ah, you know what? I'm gonna shoot a couple few minutes in there and do the director's cut of this.
Maybe this is the man who knew too much, where Hitchcock wasn't happy necessarily with the movie and he remade it, with the bigger budget and bigger stars and
That's possible
you
too.
know. I would be okay with that. A lot of people have talked about like Tarantino remaking Reservoir Dogs as a his last film. I think that's
No,
stupid,
I don't want to see that
but
remake.
I don't want to see that either. Not, I would be okay with seeing somebody else remake it, just for fun, you know. But
If you're gonna redo it, do something fun and interesting, like do it in puppets or something. That would be fun.
that's your answer for everything.
I could do a cartoon version too. That would be interesting, an anime version.
Animated Headhunter. I mean, if you did it set in that world, that would be really interesting, but whatever. Anyway, everybody, I guess is there any more? Was there anything else you wanted to
Not much other than I can say, find it on Blu-ray. I'm sorry, find it on DVD at Amazon, and then it is on Prime. There's not a whole lot of other places you can find it though, unfortunately. But if you get a chance, check it out. I think those of you who only see this director through the eyes of Thanksgiving are going to be a little surprised at what you find.
might be surprised. You might, I don't know. Might be happy. We'll see.
Yep.
All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this. In a couple weeks, it'll be mine, and I don't think Paul will be back for that. But we're happy to have you back for this, man, because I've been doing, I've been doing all the quick review Thursdays for a while because you've
Well,
been busy.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, if you've carved out Tuesday nights for me and Sundays, so if you do it on a Tuesday night,
exactly, and for the next couple months, we're not going to be doing IOCs in Zoom. We're gonna just be doing that through the studio. So. We'll have this other time where you can just pick something from, Tubi or whatever that you wanna or so that you wanna pick out. So yeah, I suggest people checking this out and Let us know what you guys think of The Headhunter. I wonder if anybody else will be like talking about this movie, like reviewing. You
That'd be cool. I'd love to
send
hear what
me.
some other folks have to say about it. I'd love to hear what John Ward have to say about it.
I don't know if you saw it or not, but
Probably not.
he probably like it. Um, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Join me in a couple more weeks. And until then, everybody.